joined by the incredible April Stallworth, and I'm so excited for our Q&A session where we are going to talk to April about her amazing career and advice that she can offer to our wonderful attendees today. So April, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, it's so good to be with you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we're going to not so much have a whistle-stop tour of your career because I know that you've done a lot and we can cover a huge amount of ground. And I've got some questions prepared for you. But before we go into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've done and your EA career and where you are now?
Sure. So, like you said, I'm April Stallworth. I have served as an executive support professional for 30 years of my career, and I did that in corporate, I did that in nonprofit organizations. I even worked in a church. I mean, I have worked in a number of spaces in that role, always working for higher level executives. And then throughout my career, I had the opportunity to create a program called HEART, which stands for Helping Empower Administrative Support Professionals Through Resources and Training. Because I believe administrative support professionals are the heart of every business, every organization, every place they find themselves in. And so that program actually won a national award in the US, and that kind of launched me into speaking and coaching and training administrative support professionals. I have a couple of courses out there on LinkedIn Learning where I train and guide and hopefully motivate administrative support professionals. And then just about this is going to be my second school year because I work in a public school system in the US. I actually got promoted out of the administrative support professional ranks, and now I'm an executive director of communications and partnerships. And I love the work, but let me tell you this: administrative support professional and the work, both the people and the work that is done are always dear to my heart. And if it were not for all the training, all the work, all the opportunities that I was able to have as an administrative support professional, I would have never got my current job. I know it.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to speaking to you about that because I think particularly with the virtual summit that we're doing in January for this one that we're talking to you about, we are looking at skills. And I think particularly in January, there will be so many assistants that are looking at their skills, both hard skills and mindset and competency, and thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this if I've reached a level of being an assistant and I want to go and try and do something else. So I'm really excited about talking to you about that. Before we move on to that, I'd like to kind of cover skills because that is the main theme of the virtual summit. And I'm curious about the skills that you would say that have helped you in your career and some of the skill set that you have. I wonder if you can talk to us a little bit about that, some of the skills you have and how they've helped you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk from the perspective of the top skills that I learned and I cultivated as an administrative support professional, and that then I feel catapulted me into leadership opportunities and then prepared me for the job that I have now. So I would say those top skills are communication skills. So we know we're communicating all the time as administrative support professionals. We're communicating orally, we're communicating writtenly, we're communicating digitally. And so you have to have superior communication skills to not only do your job, but to then rise either within the administrative support professional ranks or if you want to move up and out. So always working on my communication skills, how I talk to people, how I write, because now here I am, executive director of communications. That involves a lot of writing, a lot of talking, a lot of preparing things that people are going to see and read. So communication skills. Secondly, relationship management. How we create relationships, how we serve people in those relationships, how we are able to then benefit by the relationships that we create. Quick story. So when it was time for me to interview for the new job. It was a moment in time, it was during the pandemic. And my boss, who I was supporting solely, he happened to be on a personal leave at the time. So he had some personal things he needed to take care of, and he was going to be out of office for several months. So it was actually his cabinet team, the ones that reported to him, who actually interviewed me for the job and made the decision to hire me. Had I not spent time cultivating those relationships and not just focused on my boss solely, how do you think that would have worked out for me? Or if
Yeah.
I had burned bridges with them, it would not have worked out in a way that would have been beneficial when it came time for me. Because see, I had cultivated really good relationships with them, and they knew me, they knew my work, they knew what I was capable of. So it was a win-win when it came time for me to interview for that job. So communication, relationship management, and then I'll say lastly, executive presence. How do you show up? How do you present yourself in rooms? Are you able to, again, communicate effectively? Are you able to stand in for your boss? People in the organization recognize who you are even without your title? Do they know that you can handle higher levels of responsibility? And so all those things worked in my favor, and those are the things that helped me move up.
It's such a good point, and it's so interesting there that you didn't mention tech skills or being able to use Outlook or work a calendar or understand scheduling. It's all those personal competencies that have elevated you in your career. I find that so interesting because it is that, isn't it, the executive assistant role? All of the harder skills around typing fast and being accurate with with your spelling can all be learned. It's
Right.
the other stuff that you have to be really intentional about. So I think that's so true what you said there.
Yeah, absolutely. Though the technical skills, anybody can learn those. You have a basic level of competency. Now, some are whizzes at handling calendars, making very complex travel itineraries. I'm not saying that just anybody can do it. I'm saying it can be learned over time. And so I saw a quote once, and I live by this even as I had to hire my own team and have to do that from time to time. You hire for character, you train for skill. So the things that can be learned more mechanically and that then you can then put your own spin on it and really elevate in those different areas, we can get you those. But I'm looking at those soft skills, the things that I talked about, and your character, because I think the things I talked about do show your character, your grit, your determination, your will, your dedication in those different areas. We can get to that other stuff. But do you have some of those natural things? Do you have the things that I can't find, broadly? What's unique about you?
And just to touch on the last one that you mentioned there about executive presence, because I think a lot of that comes with confidence. A lot of it comes with a knowledge of the role. You don't walk in and you have executive presence on day one when you're just out of college. So I wondered how you've gone about building your executive presence.
Such a good point. Now, even those just right out of college, there are certain people when they walk in a room.
Yeah, that's a fair point. They own the room. Yeah.
They're in. They have light. They bring a certain amount of energy. I call it the cha-cha-cha. You have that cha-cha-cha. So I always knew I had a little cha-cha-cha. But the thing you spoke of, Nikki, confidence. I had to build that over time. People who meet me today are like, no way. You didn't build that. You always had, no. Believe it or not, I'm introverted. I'm an introvert. Now, that doesn't mean I'm shy per se, but it means I would much rather be curled up on my couch with a good book and a fire and a nice glass of wine than out at a social event or meeting people for the first time. Like that small talk, I don't do that well. But put me on a stage or a platform like this where thousands of people might see me or millions, and I'm comfortable as I don't know what, which is just the weirdest thing ever. But most speakers are introverts, believe it or not. So I had to develop that muscle. I had to be stretched and pulled. I had to learn how to have direct eye contact. I had to learn how to project myself. I had to learn, and that came with time and with experience. I read a whole lot about how to do that, and I watched people who were really, really good at that, which were most of the executives I supported, who were really good at that. And I would ask a bunch of questions. How do you do that? How did you get that? What have you always done this, that? And just did a lot of observation. And over the years, it just continues to grow. But the key thing with that is you gotta be able to speak in front of people. I don't care how small the audience is. They say that public speaking is one of the worst fears. It's called glossophobia. People would rather die than speak in public, according to some old research. And so I was one of those people. And so I had a lot to say, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. But the only way to move past it is to keep doing it. Is to
It's
keep
so
doing it.
true. And it's horrible, isn't it? Because I think if there was a magic wand and we could wave it for everybody to have the confidence to voice their opinion and speak in front of people, I for one would do it, because the struggle is absolutely real.
It
And
is.
unfortunately, the only way to get over it is to keep doing it. It's so
It is.
true.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remembered one of another EA trainer that I was speaking to, Maggie Jacobs, who said it was like a glass ceiling for assistance. And if you
Mm,
could just break through it, the opportunities that are there for assistance, once you are able to voice an opinion, it's stratospheric where it can take you if you can just get that confidence to be able to speak in front of people.
absolutely. And I just thought of one thing, if I can just interject this real quick. Another of my top points, I got to say this one, is that I learned to be unapologetically me. I stopped trying to be somebody else. I stopped trying to mimic other people. I stopped trying to present myself in a way that wasn't fully true to who my character was. Because it's great to learn from other people and to emulate and to pick up techniques in that, but don't try to morph yourself into somebody else. You are the one they picked. You got called. Nikki invited me today to her summit and to this interview. Why would I present myself as somebody else? I was the one asked to be here. And so I have to show up. And if I don't show up, somebody else is going to miss out on connecting with me in a way that is going to benefit them. And so that's another key point I forgot about. You got to be you, but you got to first know who you are. Know who you are. Know what you like. Know what you don't like. Know what gets you charged up and what is like, wah, wah, wah. Like you got to know that. If you got some humor to you, which I think I got a little bit, I bring that. I don't suppress that. I have to bring the full essence of who I am. And I'm a Black woman in America. Can I say that? Like, that's who I am. That's who you see. And so that I can't try to be anything other than who I am, my culture, my identity, my ethnicity. All of that has to come to the forefront because somebody needs to see that you can be in a room with all levels, all types of people, diverse groups, and you can be fully yourself. And if you are told not to be or suppressed, you're in the wrong room. You're in the wrong room.
Absolutely, absolutely. You want to be somewhere where you can thrive and be celebrated for what you bring in all forms. Because as you said, there's somebody you can be educating somebody, and you can be, championing them if they're unsure about themselves. If they see somebody like you who brings your full authentic self,
Yes,
then that's doing other people service as well. So I completely agree, and you should be celebrated in every room.
absolutely.
Well, I want to talk about one of the things that you were very much celebrated for, and as you said at the beginning, catapulted you as a speaker and thought leader in the assistant space, and that's networking. So one of the first things I ever saw was the acceptance speech that you gave when you won your award for the Heart Network, and it was groundbreaking to see you get up there and accept an award, and how important networks were for assistants. So again, I just wonder if you can give some advice to anybody watching who maybe is part of a network but it's not quite working, or is thinking about setting up a network. I wonder if you can just testify to the importance of them for assistants.
Absolutely. One of the key points of the heart program that I developed was that assistants need to network, first and foremost with each other. Okay. Because if you work in an organization where there are a lot of other assistants, which I know many of administrative assistants do, executive personal assistants, you talk to each other all the time. You work together, your work relies on each other, but you really get a chance to spend time together, to have lunch, to train together, to be face to face, and even harder now in the world that we live. And I thought that was such a disservice because I said, we're better together. We need to know each other. We need to be able to talk about our best practices. We need to be able to have places where we can be in a safe space, talk about some of the challenges of the job, and then come up with ways that we can overcome them together. And so I wanted an opportunity. I was working in a school system then as well, and there were about 150 of us, and we talked all the time. We emailed each other. Some liked each other, some didn't. Like, it was all the stuff that goes on. I said, we need to get together. Like, I never get to see the folks in the other building or the other country or the whatever. And now with all the virtual stuff that we can do, it's even easier. So it's important to come together for the reasons that I've outlined. And that, again, I got to say it, we're better together. We can solve the world's problems together. Just put all the assistants in government in every country. We got this. We will get it.
We would be fine.
Fine. No wars, no famine, no homelessness. We'd have that thing all together. Everybody prospering and thriving. And oftentimes we're the last one to find out stuff. If we're the first ones to find out, it would make things run so much smoother. So that's super important. But if you're an assistant who's not in an organization where there are a lot of assistants, that's no excuse, because there's a whole global community. There's your community, Nikki. There's a bunch of communities out there where you can create meaningful relationships, even virtually, and have those conversations, have those interactions, have different opportunities like this conference here, this summit here, this training opportunity here, where you can come together and not feel so isolated and alone. So if you're looking to start one, just start it. You can start a group on LinkedIn. You can start something in your organization, and it's as easy and won't cost you a dime. We started with lunch and learns. We would come together, have our lunch together, and it can even be virtually. You can do it these days, have a lunch and learn. And there's so much free stuff out there and stuff you can pay for if you've got the budget. And we learn together. We do a book study together. Let's do that. And then let's start incorporating some different issues we're dealing with. Like, it's not hard to do. You just got to have the people who are willing to do it. You got to have the conviction that this is important to do. And then let it rip. Just go for it and get online and start opening yourself up to doing that sort of stuff. It's going to benefit not only the people who are involved, it's going to benefit the organization, because we want happy people at work. We want people coming together, solving problems, figuring things out, growing their personal and professional development skills. And so I haven't met an employer yet, an executive yet, who has not been behind that. And if you have one that doesn't want to see you grow, doesn't want to see you come up with ideas to save money, doesn't want to see you get along better with your employees, you got to really contemplate, is that the right place for me? That's a question you got to ask yourself.
Yeah. And just on a personal note, Obviously, when you set up the HARP network, I don't think probably you wouldn't have imagined where it went and the accolades that came with it. So I just wonder, on a personal note, putting yourself out there and doing something like that wasn't integral to your role. It was something that you did separate to it. I wonder
Yeah,
just what the benefits have been for you personally.
absolutely. So why I was even able to do it was I was passionate about it. It was something that was so important to me. You know, you get those things in your gut that you just can't ignore. Like, we all have those things, and we're uniquely created to have those pieces of life, of work, of personal. You know, some people on here, I'm sure, homelessness is one of those things for them. Making sure people have something to eat, like a purpose that's greater than yourself. And so, this for me professionally was one of those things. And so, once I was able to get something moving, and I had help along the way, I talk about I had an executive sponsor, my boss at the time, who was totally on board with me. So, you can't do it by yourself per se. But it was so rewarding to be able to move it through the process. Other people started getting excited about it, and you started seeing us do things that it was extremely personally rewarding. And then, little did I know, when I submitted us for the award, because you got to submit yourself sometimes, don't wait for other people to do it. When I celebrated and submitted us for the award, and then we won the award, it, like you said, it catapulted me because it put me on a huge stage that wasn't just national, it was a global stage, put me on the stage to do that, and then started leading me in the direction of my purpose, of what I've been created to do, which is to educate, equip, and inspire folks. And so it was one part of my journey. So you just never know, if by taking that one small step, um, how it can change the trajectory of your career and your life. Because after getting on the platform, then I, started to position myself as an expert in the space. And then LinkedIn came looking for me. They looked for me. They found me. And now I'm one of the top subject matter experts, if not the one, for them, for administrative support professionals. And so it just starts with taking that step. And it wasn't, yes, it was personally rewarding, but it was so much greater than me, so much greater than me. And so now here I sit on the other side of that, able to hopefully encourage and motivate other folks to do the same thing.
It's so exciting, and it's led to where you are today now, having been promoted, working in a different role. Well, as you said, there was leadership opportunities, and then this new role came along. So, can you tell us a little bit about the journey that you've made over the last few years into a different role, and what the conversations were, and how that all came about?
Absolutely. So I knew I was at the top spot in where I was, in terms of company. I couldn't go any higher. I was the highest executive support professional. I supported the superintendent of the entire district, and so, and the district was made up about 5,000 students, and so there was no. I'm not a teacher by certification, although I consider myself a teacher. I didn't want to get into this role or that role within. This was it, and so I loved the work I was doing. Like I said, I've been doing this work for 30 years, but I was also doing my stuff on the side. So I'm like, well, what's next? It's a full-time entrepreneurship. But where do I go from here? I started thinking maybe it's a chief of staff role. They didn't have that there. So I'm thinking I have to go outside of the organization to go to my next level. Because who doesn't want to go to the next level? We all want to keep growing, even if it's still within our ranks. We want to keep growing. We want to make more money. We want to have more opportunities. We want greater benefits and things that will help our families. And so I was at that crossroads. And so I was starting to prepare that I was going to have to leave the organization to go to the next level. And then a global pandemic hit. And so things shift. Like I said, my boss had to take some time off. Like, all this stuff was happening. And at the same time, the gentleman who was in my role that I'm currently in prior, he was going to be retiring. And so I hadn't really thought about his role or trying to replace him. But then as things started shifting and moving and changing, I said, and it started getting closer that he was on, I said, well, let me take a look at this. And so the way the role was currently set up, I wasn't excited about. But then, I'm a woman of faith. And so you start praying and talking to wise counsel and stuff like that. Well, why do you have to do it the way he did it? What's your vision? What would it look like if you were in charge? And then I started getting excited. And the work, when I really looked at it in detail, it was a culmination of all the things I really had been doing. And so not only was I working the executive assistant role, but I was active in my community. I do a lot of public service, community service. I was speaking, training, doing all these things. And the more I looked at it, I'm like, this is kind of perfect for me. But I've got to get a vision for what it would look like under my leadership. I have supervised people before. So I've led teams, and so in other roles and in my outside roles. And so one thing leads to another, 10 things lead to 10. I get a vision and I say, you know what, I'm going to submit. And I submitted and I laid out my vision for what I thought it would look like. I said, but you still got to let me lead heart because we do heart at this employer as well. And all things lined up and I got the opportunity. And it has just been a joy to restructure the department according to the vision that I laid out. I restructured the organizational structure. I have 3 full-time employees who work under my leadership, and then I've been able to add 6 paid student intern positions in my department. So now we're providing opportunity for high school students to learn about communications, marketing, social media, all these things. And I'm no fool. I hired some young folk who knew how to do the stuff, maybe that I wasn't as versed at. So I didn't let the things that I didn't know stop me because again, hire for character, train for skill. I said, I can learn all that stuff and I can get some people on my team that know how to do it and they can teach me. And so it's just been wonderful. And I'm so fortunate and blessed to be in the position I'm in now.
Wow, it sounds fantastic. And as I said at the beginning, congratulations, because I think it's not easy for assistants to move outside of the role and be seen for the potential that they have. But I think also from what you've said there, it's you've been loyal to that organization for such a long time. And there probably would have been a huge amount of opportunities at certain points in your career to have gone and done something else and you haven't. So I think it's a real testament to loyalty as well, that you've worked so hard for them and that they've seen that ability in you. So I think for assistants who are watching, who've been at an organization for a long time, there are opportunities there. As you said, April, if you have the confidence as well and the vision to see things and go for them.
Yes. And sometimes you have to create the opportunities. Like you have to do some of the things I've talked about already and start positioning yourself. Because little did I know, so I've been with them 6 years. So little by little, I was positioning myself for the opportunities, asking for greater levels of leadership, having those conversations with my boss, saying, you know what, I have a great interest in this. Would you be okay if I attend this meeting? Would you be okay if I got on this committee? Could I start, a year after I got there? Because at first I wanted to learn the organization, learn the people, create relationships. So it wasn't until after about a year and a half that I got there. I said, okay, can we get heart going here? Because you have to first come in as a student sometimes and you have to learn the place, develop some relationships. And then they gave me the opportunity to then roll out heart there, because that was one of the things I talked about in my interview that I was very proud of. And I wondered what they did there for assistants, and they didn't really do anything. I said, well, I got the answer for that. So then I was able to showcase myself leadership wise. My boss knew about all the outside things that I did, and he supported that. So it was very important that I had a person who was willing to champion me and who understood that this wasn't the only thing I did. I was a much broader person, and that I had other interests and pursuits that I wanted to be doing. But when I was with him and on the job, I was 100% loyal, did what I was supposed to do. But I'm bigger than this. And so I need to have more than this. And so help me create the opportunities. And I had a willing person who wanted to do that. And I didn't know where things would end up, but I was willing to put myself out there, and which again takes time, but you got to figure out, well, what do I want to be doing? What do I have interest in? Where do my passions lie? And as you figure that out, the opportunities will start presenting themselves. They really will. I've seen that happen.
And did you ever experience any pushback from anybody? One of the things you mentioned earlier was about cultivating relationships outside of your executive role, but within sort of their inner circle and the other C-suite leaders. I wonder if there was ever any pushback that you received either from the executives or any of the other of your other colleagues that, why are you cultivating these relationships? I just wonder.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you do experience some of that. I didn't experience it from my boss's direct reports because they're not stupid. They're politically smart, so they're not gonna push back on their boss's assistant. I know maybe some eyebrows were raised that I had so much to say in certain meetings or that I found myself in certain opportunities. But believe it or not, the pushback where I received was unfortunately other administrative support professionals, because here I was now elevated, I guess, to them. And it was kind of like, why does she get to do that? Or why does April or whatever? And we don't get to do that. And so you're always going to have some of that. And so how I tried to combat that was with kindness, was with helping them through heart to have opportunities and ways that they could. And I would share how I was doing certain things and help them in ways that maybe they can now push themselves to the next level or take advantage of opportunities that were there, because the opportunities were always there. I just saw them and I just took advantage of them. And so I'm just trying to get them to see the same thing. Like, you can do some of this too. I brought some of them onto the Heart Steering Committee and put them in levels of leadership, even though I knew full well they didn't care for how I was elevating. I said, I got a strategy for this. Come on over and I'm going to give you a position and help you to grow your management. And so I won some of them over. I don't win everybody over, but that's okay. Because if you're going to do anything, or if you're going to elevate, or if you're going to grow in levels of leadership, you're always going to have somebody that's not necessarily thrilled about what you're doing. And that says more about them than it does about you. And so it takes that maturity and that level of executive presence. You think everybody likes your boss? They don't, but they do their job anyhow because they know who they are and they're focused and they have a purpose. And so that stuff is super important. It sounds kind of woo, whatever, but knowing those things and being clear on who you are is going to help you when it comes time to have to deal with people who don't like you, who are jealous of you, who wish they could have some of the things that you have. You got to still keep going anyhow.
Yeah, it's a good life skill, I think, isn't it? Because it's not just in work that you encounter people like that, it's in all walks of life. So learning that skill fast will take you a long way in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, which leads me on to my next question, because I'm sure that you've encountered this, and I know there'll be a lot of assistants that maybe come off the back of, say, the virtual summit today or other training that they do throughout the year, and get really excited about what they can do and the opportunities that they have and where they can add value. But with that comes the confidence to sell yourself. And that's something that assistants have to do quite often, which can be quite tiresome at times. But I wonder again how you've gone about doing that. Just as you said earlier, showing your whole self and explaining to everyone around you, look, I can do so much more than you think I can. I just wonder if you could give any advice for that.
So, first and foremost, you're going to get clarity. You got to spend the time getting clarity. Once you've taken in all the information you're going to take in from the summit, and you say, okay, I really want to do blank. I see an opportunity at my place of employment or maybe it's even outside of your place of employment, because you can use some of this information for some of the charitable organizations you're involved in, for some of the things in your family, whatever it is. Okay, what does this look like for me? And spend some time fleshing that out, getting some clarity, and getting your thoughts down. Paper, computer, wherever you put this. And then, okay, so I see an opportunity at work where I can be more effective here. Here's why I think that's important to do. What is the payoff of that? How does it help me? How does it help the company? How does it help my executive? How is it intertwined into my career plan and my trajectory of where I want to go next and all of that? And then have a meeting. Get on your boss's calendar. If it's not your boss, that's the person that can help you in this area, whoever the person is, and say, okay, I want to present an idea to you. Again, that's that communications muscle you're developing on how you can present ideas. If you need help, go online, shoot me an email, get out there, connect with me on LinkedIn. I talk to my learners in my course all the time. They'll say, what about this, April? What about that? And run it past somebody and then present it. What do you have to lose? I mean, again, I've not seen an executive yet who has any sense, who has said, oh, I don't want you to grow. I don't want you to have better relationships. I want you to be miserable at work. I don't want you to save the company any money. I don't want this innovative idea. Like, who does that? Who does that? And then get 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 their support. Then go for it. Some things you don't even have to ask. How you spend your lunchtime is your business. Start getting some other people together and let's do a video together at lunchtime. And then put that on your evaluation when it comes time to say, oh, I've been doing this. We've been meeting every other week and we've been learning this and I've started this or that. Some things it doesn't take permission. A lot of this stuff is really the onus falls on us. It does. It's not, you're not waiting for anybody else. They're not the problem. You got to go like this. How can I affect the change that I want to see? And then if you end up in an organization where it's constant pushback, because I know there are organizations that are not so open or that don't care about that. If you constantly get pushback, if you don't have a supportive environment for your growth, if people are just doggone mean, and why are you still there? Why are you not looking for an environment that's more conducive to the person you are and that you're trying to be? And I've had those situations. Everything hasn't been, rose petals and butterflies in every job that I've worked in. I've been overall super, super fortunate and blessed with the people that I worked with. But that's because when I interviewed with them and they were interviewing me, I was interviewing them. It's a two-way street when you take an assignment. And so we've got to take some responsibilities for some of the place we find ourselves in. And I'm not saying go out there and just quit your job. I have had to work in jobs where I couldn't just up and quit. I'm a single mother. Okay. I had to help raise my daughter. I had to provide, okay, in tough situations. And so, but even if I had to stay there, I started devising a plan. I started outlining steps to get me to the next moment. And then once things lined up, I was off and running. But I still took the opportunity, even when I was in a job that wasn't necessarily where I knew I was going to be. I learned everything I could from that place, and I learned everything in adversity. How do I manage adversity? How do I still put a smile on my face and serve people even when I know they don't like me? How do I stretch myself and grow patience while I'm waiting for the next opportunity? Like, there's still something to learn in every situation that you're in. And I know people are in tough situations. It's not easy, especially coming through this pandemic and the way workplaces have shifted. So please don't think I don't empathize with that, because I do. I've been in some of those places. But I'm saying don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. Don't do that.
Yeah, and I love what you said there. Take everything you can from the opportunity that you're in, because as you said, a lot of the times the best lessons that you can learn are in adversity, and
Right.
actually around people that are awful. Sometimes the best life skills that you can develop are how to deal with those people, because they're in all walks of life. You're
Absolutely.
always going to confront people like that, so get that learning in as much as possible. But absolutely 100% what you said, be looking for your exit, and always, don't feel like you have to stay, because you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
forget, I was about to leave my organization
Yeah.
because I thought, this is it. You're done. You've learned everything you can learn here. You've hit the ceiling that you talk about.
Mm.
And now the next opportunity is going to be outside of here. And look how things shifted. And that ended up not being the case.
Well, I've got two more questions before we wrap up. And the first one is, I guess, more of a specific one around skills. And I wonder if you can give an example of one strategic tactic that you've implemented in your career that's led to success for you.
So it would probably be goal setting. Critical. And not just, arbitrary dreams you're throwing out there and hoping and wishing that they come true. I'm going to grab something right here. My 2023 vision board.
I love it. That's dedicated. You framed it.
Yeah. My
That's brilliant.
2023 vision board. So every year I do a vision board.
That's amazing.
That's the start of my goals. Okay. It starts with a vision for me. And this is what I teach, because I go out and teach on this as well. I start with a vision. How do I want my life to look this year? What's going well? What's not going well? What needs to change? What do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? What do I want to look like physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially at the end of 2023? And I just start crafting a vision, what that looks like, and come up with different areas, come up with different goals in each area. So once I start with the vision, okay, that's great, wonderful dream, hope that happens. Now, how do I practically set up goals in each area that's going to get me to that point? And so I use the SMART goal method, which there's plenty of information out there on SMART goals, SMART goals. And then I create the goals. And that breaks them down into daily, weekly, monthly things I need to be doing to get where I said I want to be by the end of the year. Because if I don't do that, again, it's just a dream, it's a hope, life happens, and then it'll be December. I'm like, oh my God, what happened to this year?
I've got a lot to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are. We're just in, the early part of the year when we're
It's
recording
so
this.
easy. Yeah.
And I've hit a couple of goals already. Some I'm willing to talk about. I have started coaching. Yes, the coach needs a coach. I started coaching because I have some very specific goals in an area that I'm trying to reach. So I need an accountability partner in that area who doesn't know me, who doesn't love me, who doesn't have any, emotional connection to me, who can tell me about myself because I'm a trip and I need somebody to tell me about myself. So I got a coach. The other thing I'm starting is therapy, mental health therapy. And what drove me to that was, and I'm fully transparent. I like to share with my audience because somebody's going to connect with this. I got to say this. I had a very personal loss in November. I lost a dear, dear friend unexpectedly, rocked my world in November. And then there are just transitions and things that I need to process as a result of that for my own life. Because when you lose somebody close to you unexpectedly and it rocks you, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What just happened? And what does that mean? And so I need to process that. Matter of fact, I'm meeting with her for the first time later today.
Brilliant.
Yes. So those are two things that I had for my mental health, my career health, that boom, done already. Now I haven't completed everything, but I said I wanted by a certain time frame to have these things set up, and I began the process. And so goal setting, vision setting, outlining things that you want to have done in your life so that you can live the life that you want to live in all aspects has been a game changer in my life. And I've implemented that sort of practice for about 20 years, maybe more like 15. And I have seen the results of that in my own life. I can point to it specifically. Does it always work out the way I planned? Not always. Do I write my goals in pencil? Yep, because life happens.
Yeah.
Who knew what the world would look like between 2020 and today? So 2020 goals was a hot mess. It's a mess.
I'm surprised if you had any.
Right. You know what it ended up being? Survive.
Survive, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Survive.
Yeah.
So that whole year, a lot of
Yeah.
change. But 2021, we got back on track. And it was still rough, but we was able to get some stuff. Now here we are, 2022. So there's always something. So there was still stuff, even out of a global pandemic, that I was able to accomplish and that came out. Was it the way I intended it when I started in January 2020? No. Was it still a learning experience and pivotal for how I moved forward? Absolutely.
Thank you for that. It's actually just made me really think about what I want to do this year, because as I said to you before we hit record on the interview, I'm very slowly getting into this year, and I
Yes.
think actually just off of that answer there, I'm going to go away and do that, because you're absolutely right. It just helps you stay grounded in the year, doesn't it? It helps you see where the year is going. You can check in on yourself regularly. I think that's really important. So thank you for that. And thank you for being transparent. Because when something like that happens to you, where you lose somebody close, it is earth shattering.
Yes.
And you have to take the time for yourself to find peace with that. So I think for anybody listening who's had that experience, it's such good advice.